Welcome to Secret Affairs. In today's story, my name is Olivia Thompson, and for most of my life, I believed I understood who my parents were. I believed I knew the shape of my family, the truth of my past, and the meaning behind every memory that formed me. But everything I thought I knew shattered the moment my younger brother Ethan showed up at my apartment that rainy Saturday. Drenched, trembling, and carrying a truth so heavy it nearly broke us both. I was curled up on the couch that afternoon, wrapped in a blanket with a warm mug of coffee in my hands, watching rain streak down my window in soft streams. The world outside felt muted, calm, the kind of peaceful quiet I never got enough of. My apartment smelled like cinnamon and vanilla, my favorite candle flickering gently on the side table. I wasn't expecting anyone, so when the doorbell rang, I hesitated for a moment, wondering who would be out in weather like this. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there, soaked to the bone, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, his eyes shadowed with something I didn't recognize. He looked older somehow, worn down, like he'd been carrying something far too heavy for far too long. "Hey," he said softly. "Ethan, what are you doing here? Should have called." "I know. I needed to talk to you. Can I come in?" I stepped aside, trying to read the expression on his face. Something was wrong. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it like a shift in the air, something tightening around the edges of the room. He peeled off his wet hoodie and draped it over the hook near the door. I handed him a towel and he sat on the couch beside me, rubbing it through his hair, his leg bouncing with restless energy. "Ethan, what happened?" Swallowed glanced around the room as if making sure we were alone, and then looked at me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Fear mixed with confusion, mixed with something almost like grief. "Promise you won't freak out," he said. My heart tightened. "Just tell me." He took a long breath, steadying himself. "Olivia, I think Mom or Dad or maybe both of them had a second family. And I think that family might still be out there." For a moment, the world stopped moving. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at him, waiting for the joke, the punchline, the explanation. But there was none. His eyes were serious, pained, and filled with the kind of sincerity that left no room for lies. "What did you just say?" I whispered. "I know how it sounds," he said quickly. "But I'm not guessing. I'm not assuming. I have proof." I felt myself freeze. Proof. The word hit my stomach like a stone. "Show me," I said, my voice barely audible. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a worn, old leather-bound notebook. It looked aged something from before we were even born. He placed it on the coffee table like it was something fragile, something dangerous. "I found this in Dad's old toolbox," he said, hidden inside the lining. I opened the notebook carefully. The pages were filled with Dad's handwriting, familiar loops and slants, ID seen on grocery lists and birthday cards countless times. But the content? The content was nothing like the man I thought I knew. Dates, names, locations, letters addressed to someone named Im. Sentiments far too intimate to be for anyone but a partner. And at the center of the earlier pages, a photograph. A woman I'd never seen before, smiling warmly at the camera. And next to her, a little boyno, older than maybe 8 or 9. Blonde hair, blue eyes, innocent, unaware, and undeniably carrying features. I recognized their father's cheekbones, his jawline, his smile. My hands shook around the edges of the photograph. "Ethan, Dad had a son." Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. "And that's not all. Look at the back." I flipped the photo over. In Dad's handwriting it read, "Our son, always my light. One day I'll find a way to make things right." My chest tightened painfully. I felt like the breath was being pushed out of my lungs. My dad, the man who taught me how to ride a bike, who held my hand on the first day of school, who came to every recital, every event, who held our family together, had a secret life, a secret child, a secret love. How long have you known?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "I found it 2 days ago," Ethan said. But I needed time to process. and to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with it. I pressed my hand to my forehead. Why would he keep this from us? Why wouldn't Mom know? Olivia, Ethan said quietly. Mom did know. He pulled out a second item from his backpack, a letter, folded into quarters, the edges worn. This was tucked inside the back of the notebook. I unfolded the letter. It was addressed to Dad, and it was written by Mom. The handwriting hit me instantly. Strong, neat, familiar. Michael, it began. I don't know how much longer we can pretend this isn't happening. I understand why you did what you did. I understand the promises you made before we were married. But secrets have a way of destroying people, and I'm afraid of what will happen when Olivia and Ethan one day learn the truth. My vision blurred. My throat burned. Mom had known. She had known everything. They had both carried this secret for years. They had both built a life on top of it. I don't understand, I whispered. Why wouldn't they tell us? Because the notebook doesn't end there, Ethan said quietly. Keep reading. I flipped through more pages. And at the back, I found an entry written just weeks before our parents died. The words looked rushed, panicked, scrawled in uneven lines. They found out, I don't know how. I don't know what they want, but they threatened her, both of them. If I don't comply, they said they'd come after Olivia and Ethan too. I have to keep them safe, even if it means lying. Even if it means disappearing. My blood turned cold. Ethan, I whispered, this wasn't an accident. He nodded. I think someone killed them. And I think it has something to do with the second family. I felt the world tilt under my feet. Everything I believed about my past, my childhood, my parents' love, our tragedy. All of it was shifting, changing shape, revealing shadows I never saw. Who else knows about this? I asked. Just me, he said. And now, you. I took a shaking breath and looked at him. My little brother. The boy I raised after our parents died. The young man who came to me with fear in his eyes and the heaviest truth he'd ever held. What do we do now? I asked. He hesitated, then reached into his bag one more time. This was in the notebook too, he said, handing me a small brass key. With a note. The note read, if anything happens to us, follow the address in the lining. The truth is there. My heart pounded as I stared at the key, weighing it in my palm. It felt heavy, cold, ancient, and terrifying. Olivia, Ethan said, meeting my eyes, we need to go there. We need to find out what really happened, and we need to know who else is out there, whether they're dangerous. I swallowed. The rain outside had picked up again, drumming harder against the windows. Like a heartbeat echoing through the room, everything in me knew there was no turning back. Once we followed this truth, there would be no unlearning it, no unseeing it, no undoing whatever we uncovered. But looking at Ethan, the fear, the determination, the grief and confusion mixing inside him, I knew there was only one thing left to say. Okay, I whispered, we'll go. And in that moment, surrounded by the scent of cinnamon, the sound of rain, and the weight of the past pressing down around us like a tightening fist, I felt the ground shift beneath my life. I felt the door to everything I once believed creak open into darkness, mystery, danger, and truth. A truth my parents died protecting. A truth that might lead us to a brother we never knew. A truth that might expose the people who destroyed our family. And a truth that could change everything. That night, neither of us slept. Ethan stayed on the couch, not because he wanted to, but because the storm outside made the roads too dangerous to drive. Thunder cracked through the sky like something was tearing open above us, and every time lightning flashed. The shadows on the walls of my apartment seemed to twist into shapes that made my heart race harder. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, clutching the little brass key in my hand so tightly that the edges dug into my skin. I kept replaying the words in Dad's journal, each sentence hitting me again like I was reading it for the first time. They threatened her. They threatened both of them. And if I don't comply, they'll come after Olivia and Ethan too. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want any of it to be true. but the fear wrapped around me like a cold blanket. If our parents didn't die in an accident, then someone out there did it. Someone who might still be watching us. Someone who might not want us uncovering what truly happened. When I finally drifted into a shallow, uneasy sleep, the rain was still pounding, and the storm felt like it seeped straight into my dreams. By morning, the rain had stopped, but the sky was still heavy with clouds, as if the storm hadn't left. It had just gone quiet. I walked into the living room to find Ethan awake, sitting at my dining table with Dad's notebook open in front of him. He looked exhausted, his eyes shadowed, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee he probably didn't even taste. We stared at each other for a long moment, both silently asking the same question. Are we really doing this? Did you see the address? He asked, finally. I nodded. In the lining of the notebook, tucked between layers of old fabric like someone wanted to hide it without destroying it, was a small strip of paper with an address scribbled on it in Dad's handwriting. It wasn't anywhere I recognized. Small town 2 hours outside the city. A place I had never heard our parents mention. Whatever's there, Ethan said quietly. I think it's important. I didn't disagree. But something inside me felt heavy. Like once we opened this door, there would be no closing it again. We go today, I said. We need answers. Ethan exhaled in relief, nodding. Yeah, today. We packed a few things, grabbed the notebook, the key, the letter, and drove out of the city. The farther we drove, the more the world changed. Tall buildings turned into streets of old houses. Streets turned into farmland. Farmland turned into dense stretches of forest that wrapped around the highway like long, dark arms. Ethan kept glancing at the rearview mirror. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he was paranoid. Maybe he was checking to see if anyone was following us without realizing it. I tried to focus on the road ahead, but my mind was racing. I kept thinking about the little boy in the photograph. My father had a son, a whole other child, a life I never knew about. A family he loved enough to write about, but never enough to bring into our world. Didn't know whether to feel betrayed, heartbroken, or horrified. Didn't he know if I was angry at him or if I missed him more than ever? Every emotion inside me fought to rise at once, leaving me hollow and overwhelmed. After almost 2 hours, we reached a small town that looked like it had been frozen in time. A main street with old brick buildings, a diner with peeling paint, a gas station that had probably been around since the 70s. We followed the GPS deeper into a wooded area until the signal cut out entirely. Great, Ethan muttered. No service. Keep going, I said, holding Dad's notebook and tracing the address on the strip of paper. The trees thickened around us, blocking out most of the light, and the road narrowed until it was barely wide enough for one car. Up ahead, I saw a gate. Old, rusty, leaning slightly to one side. Next to it, a mailbox with the numbers painted on it. The same numbers from the address. This is it, I said. We stepped out of the car. The air was cold, crisp, and eerily silent. No wind, no birds, nothing. Just the sound of our footsteps crunching against gravel as we approached the gate. The lock was old but intact. Ethan reached for it. Wait, I said, handing him the brass key. He inserted it slowly. It fit perfectly. When he turned it, the lock snapped open with a sharp click that echoed far louder than it should have in the quiet woods. We pushed the gate open and walked inside. The path led to a small, weathered cabin tucked between tall trees. The windows were dark. No smoke, no sign of life. It didn't look abandoned, but it didn't look lived in either. Like someone used it, but only occasionally. Ethan approached the door. Should we knock? I don't know, I whispered, but he knocked anyway. We waited. Nothing. Just silence. Try again, I said. He knocked harder. Still nothing. Maybe the key works here too, I said, holding out the brass key. He tried it. The key slid in smoothly. When he turned it, the door clicked open. My heart slammed against my ribs. Inside, the air smelled like cedar and dust. Old furniture sat neatly arranged. A couch, a coffee table, a small dining table. A lamp in the corner. a bookshelf filled with old books. But everything was too still, too deliberate. Like someone had tidied up before leaving, planning to return, but never did. "Do you think Dad used to live here?" Ethan whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to think. We stepped further in, and something on the wall caught my attention. A framed photograph. My breath caught. It was the same woman from the notebook, the woman Dad had written letters to, Kay, and standing beside her was the same boy. A little older this time, taller, his smile missing a tooth, standing in front of a school. My stomach twisted painfully. My father had posed next to them, his hand resting on the boy's shoulder. There was no denying it anymore. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't a momentary mistake. This was a full second life. "Livia," Ethan said softly, "look at this." He stood near a shelf holding a stack of envelopes, all addressed to the same name, Marlene Carter, the same initial from Dad's letters, M. I picked one up. It had never been opened. The stamp was old, Dad's handwriting on the front. "This was mailed to her," I whispered, "but she never received it." "Or she did," Ethan said, "and sent it back." I reached for a small notebook beside the envelopes. This one different, newer, less worn. As soon as I flipped it open, I froze. This wasn't Dad's handwriting. This was the handwriting of the boy, now a man. The first page read, "If anyone finds this, it means our father's secrets finally caught up with us too." My blood turned cold. Ethan leaned over my shoulder. Oh God, I kept reading. I always knew something was wrong. He visited in shadows. He came with fear behind his eyes. My mother loved him, but she knew he belonged to someone else too, a woman he said he loved just as much. We weren't ashamed, we weren't angry. Someone else was. Someone who didn't want him to live two lives. Someone who threatened us if he didn't end it. My throat tightened painfully. He wanted to tell the truth. He wanted to bring us together. But it was too late. And when he died, Mom disappeared. I don't know if she's alive. I don't know if they took her. But if you're reading this, it means you're part of the truth he wanted to reveal. I flipped the page and my entire body went cold. There was a photograph, a recent one taken in secret. A picture of me standing outside my workplace. And beneath it, a caption in the same handwriting. "They're watching you too." I felt my knees go weak. Ethan grabbed my arm, steadying me. "Livia," he whispered, his voice trembling, "someone took this picture. Someone knows who we are." I looked at the window suddenly, at the dark-tinted glass reflecting faint movement. Or maybe just shadows. I couldn't tell. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I felt dizzy. "Ethan," I whispered, "I think someone's been here recently." He whipped his head around. "Why do you say that?" Before I could answer, the front door creaked. Not loudly. It's just enough. Someone had pushed it from the outside. Footsteps, slow, steady, moving across the wooden porch. We weren't alone. Ethan grabbed my hand, pulling me close as we backed into the center of the room. My breath felt locked in my chest as the steps grew louder, closer. Then silence, pure, suffocating silence. Whoever was outside stopped right at the door. My hand shook around the notebook. Ethan's grip tightened around my fingers. And then, through the stillness, through the thin air, heavy with fear, a voice drifted through the door. A man's voice, low, calm, and chillingly familiar. "Olivia, Ethan, you shouldn't have come here. Thank you for watching Secret Affairs. If this story touched something in you, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story like this. And tell me in the comments,